Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
I wish we had Gary Oldman back.
And on that note, hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2, joining me today is Steve Baxi.
Hello, everybody.
Indeed, hello everybody, indeed.
Yeah.
So Steve, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're talking about the official, unofficial start of the Universal Monster Cinematic Universe, Dracula UnTold.
Wait, official, unofficial?
It's official in the sense that if they can film the next movie with that master vampire character, then this will officially be part of that canon.
Oh, okay.
Because they originally this wasn't supposed to be part of it, and then they went back and did reshoots to try and make it fit, and then The Mummy hasn't started filming yet, so depending on what that movie does, this may or may not be canon.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a kind of a mess because they didn't really go into it with a plan. It was just good timing that Dracula came out when they came up with the idea.
Interesting. I mean, Tywin Lannister being in other things is okay with me, so...
yeah.
Yeah, you still need to watch Game of Thrones.
I will at one point. It's just a matter of the hype dying down, you know?
Yeah, I gotcha. I shouldn't be telling you need to watch Game of Thrones, but fuck it.
No, I will watch it. I really want to watch it. It's just a matter of I have friends that are fanatics for that show, and that gets kind of irritating.
No, I gotcha. Anyway, speaking of Game of Thrones, though, I guess that's the thing, to start out with just a general thought, I guess that's the thing I found so interesting about this is it's not a horror movie, even though we're doing this as like an unexpected special of Horror Movie Month. How fitting that this is an unexpected kickoff to a canon. It's not a horror movie. It's more of an action movie and stuff. But at the same time, there's a lot of political intrigue in this with supernatural elements. So I really do like that. So it kind of has that Game of Thrones feel, just a little bit. And it's funny that Tywin Lannister is in it because of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. They definitely could have played up those elements a little bit more, but it's undeniable that they're there. And I think the producers for this movie were being very adamant about making sure no one thought that this was a horror movie. Because
yeah, I guess.
I know some people were flagging against it, like, this Dracula isn't scary, but he's not supposed to be.
Well, I mean, he kind of is.
He is and he isn't.
Like, Dracula isn't scary in this, but he's not supposed to be. But there's horror elements in this. Like,
yeah.
When Tywin's in the damn cave at the beginning. You know, I jumped a couple times in that very short scene.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the whole idea of the monster in this movie is consistent with the idea of monsters in the horror genre. It's just a matter of they weren't intentionally doing as much of that as came out in the final project.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a superhero movie almost.
Yeah.
It's like a dark superhero movie, which is really interesting. It's weird, but I think this is the first anti-hero superhero movie.
Not the first, I don't think, because, Punisher and stuff.
No, I mean, like, there's all these ones that are getting ready to come out, but, like, this is the first one that's going to come out.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them are going to be like this, because, I mean, the Punisher isn't an anti-hero in his movies, though. He is still more or less the good guy.
That's fair.
They make everyone else around him worse, and certainly the villains in this are worse than Dracula, but only because we're made to sympathize with Dracula, and we do know that character is going to take a very dramatic turn very soon.
Yeah, that's fair. It's interesting, because I was in the middle of writing this video, and one of the points I wanted to mention that's really fascinating about comparing superhero movies to horror movies is that a horror movie is a superhero story where the protagonist doesn't have the means to fight the monster, and a superhero movie is one where the protagonist does. And I think that's pretty apt here, because this is essentially a superhero horror movie where the monster's there as a reflection of ugliness and darkness and everything a person shouldn't be, and that in turn explains what a person ought to be, except that they're doing so with a lot of superheroic tropes and kind of keeping the secrets and doing kind of a same sides, two people on the same coin kind of thing with the bad guy and the good guy. So yeah, I think there's definitely some really interesting places to discuss this movie in terms of being superheroic. I don't think it succeeds in a lot of those areas, but it certainly tries.
I mean, it's very Raimi Spider-Man-ish, but like the good part of Raimi Spider-Man, I'd say.
Yeah. Did you like this movie?
And not
maybe
it's weird that it's weird that that it's gotten to the point where one of the most popular superhero movies of all time that helped create this, I guess, what does Cap call it these days? The onslaught, the ravage of superhero movies.
Yeah, the new golden age of superheroes.
Yeah, like one of the movies that helped create that is kind of like this butt of a joke a lot of times when we talk about it critically. But
yeah, just in retrospect.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like there's that Raimi Spider-Man. We get the running scene where he figures out his powers on the fly, and I like how quick that was, though. That was, if this were a superhero movie, I'd be like, if this were a superhero origin movie, I'd be like, yep, there, that's it, that's all you need. Figures out all his powers in 5 minutes, learn by doing.
Yeah, that's kind of right. That's one of the things I really enjoyed about this scene, where like when he wakes up, and it's literally like a 2-minute sequence where he figures everything out, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, it's really cool to see, a badass vampire, and be like, you still have that kind of, okay, even though this is like a really serious thing, it's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can turn into bats, man.
I love everything with him using bats. I thought that was awesome, just visually, and just the idea that we don't see that very often.
Yeah, we don't.
He uses bats better than Batman does. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, the closest thing we got was Batman Begins.
Yeah, and that's still nowhere near as badass as making a giant fist out of them.
Well, I don't know how Batman would manage to do that, but okay.
Hey, it's not practical, but this is certainly cooler. I mean, wouldn't you want to punch the Turks with a giant bat fist?
Well, I just always want to punch the Turks because I have deep-seated racist issues.
This movie is getting a lot of panning from critics. Like, people vehemently seem to hate this movie, and I guess before we progress any further, did you like it?
I mean, I enjoyed it. It's not perfect or anything. I thought it was fun popcorn, and that's all I want from, a monster movie most of the time. Like, it has some jump scares. I could have used a little more, like, of the hard horror aspect, since it is, Dracula, the king of horror. But at the same time, I enjoyed it significantly more than Bram Stoker's.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I'd put it next to Bram Stoker's in the sense that they're doing two very opposite things, but they have the same level of issues and the same level of praise. Because I had a lot of fun with this movie, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have significant issues here and there.
Oh, I mean, sure, but it's not trying to be super intellectual.
No,
I think you gotta.
That's fair.
Like, this is honestly, as much as this is a superhero movie, this is also like 300.
Yeah, that's fair. I really like Luke Evans as Dracula, and one of my biggest issues is just that he doesn't get nearly enough to do as Dracula at the end.
Like, what do you mean by at the end?
Because basically, are we doing spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So when we get to the end, and he finally embraces being Dracula and sucks Mina's blood and goes to get revenge against the Turk Sultan. He doesn't get nearly as much as I wish he could do. Like, it feels like a really fast action scene at the end, and I thought it would have been so much cooler if maybe the movie was like a half hour longer, and we had him start using the shadows, and he started getting more and more maniacal, or a little bit more dark, or something.
Speaking of the shadows thing, I had to snicker just a little bit when Dracula starts playing The Light is Lava.
Oh, that was...
I'm probably the only one that thought of it that way, but
No, that
did
say
make me
that.
laugh a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I used to do as a kid. Good on you, Dracula.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I guess I see what you're saying, but at the same time, it's a convention of storytelling. You have building action, so
yeah,
you have to have more time. Like, because I already thought it was a little bit of a pacing issue that they go from that really cool action scene where he takes out everyone in front of the castle, and then we slow way down for them to, go explore, and we develop the plot more, so it's okay, but it's a little jarring pacing-wise. They go out into the mountains and stuff. It'd be weird to have basically that same thing again. For him to go for the cool bat scene and destroy a ton of the army, and then become Dracula, and then have much more brooding time, and then another big action scene. That it would feel very start-stop.
Yeah, I can definitely see your criticism there. I think where I kind of get off saying that I wish that it slowed down a little bit more is because I feel like this Dracula's character arc is really rushed. And because I really like Luke Evans in the role, I really like the visual effects, I enjoyed this movie overall, and I had fun with it. I just wish I could get behind this version of the character a bit more. Because no matter how many problems we pointed out with Bram Stoker's Dracula and how we can riddle that movie with its pacing issues and stuff, it made a really interesting version of that character.
Oh, okay.
And we haven't had that in a really long time, we had really good actors back when the original movies came out. We had a bunch of really crappy sequels and stuff that came out in the early 2000s. And we had maybe really one interesting version of that character in all that time, and that's the Bram Stoker version where he's got a psychology. And this was the perfect chance to do it.
What about Van Helsing Dracula?
You mean the Power Ranger villain Dracula?
I love the Power... You know what? You're not allowed to use Power Rangers as an insult and then also say it's a good thing, so,
I mean, it's good in terms of Power Rangers. When you're not trying to be Power Rangers, it's a totally different...
I don't know. I think Van Helsing was really trying to be Power Rangers with movie monsters.
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, this, if you wanted to give Dracula depth as a character or just as a concept, this would have been the place to do it.
And I think he has it. I mean...
It's just really generic, though, right?
I don't know, to get back to Game of Thrones, it really reminds me of Ned Stark. He's just a guy that wants to do his thing, raise his family, just live in peace, but because of the position that he has in the world, and he's a good guy at heart, because of the position he has in the world, politically speaking, he's forced to do things that he really doesn't like, because of what he cares about. And so that's really interesting to me. And then you get a very brief moment where he was talking about how he used basically psychological warfare and brutality in order to actually save people beforehand, when he's talking about every village I put to the pike saved 10 more. That was really interesting to me. Now, as far as once he becomes Dracula, we don't get enough character development, sure, but I'm willing to forgive that because I know that they're doing more with this movie. Or with this character, I should say. This version of the character. And
that's a little bit of the comic book mentality setting in now that we've kind of established that as a way of talking about stories in film. But just on the terms of we don't actually have any other movies yet, and this is the only one, and it could also not even end up being canon with the rest of them. But just on its own terms, I feel like we got an interesting Prince Vlad. We had a really cool scenes between him and his wife and him and his son. And I really enjoyed all those dynamics. And the reason he had to go out and get the powers of Dracula, I thought all that was cool. And then we get to him being Dracula, and he's kind of angry here and there, and he's got that really fantastic scene where the people of his kingdom try to burn him. But he kind of just becomes kind of stock Punisher at the end, doesn't he?
Well, let me throw this out there. I think we got to remember that this is an origin movie in a lot of ways.
Right.
In a lot of ways, this is an origin movie.
Yeah.
And part of the character of Dracula comes from the fact that he's been around for hundreds of years. So you can't have that in an origin movie yet. So I think the idea is we'll see the man that he was, and then the next time we see him, we'll see the man that he's become through hundreds of years. Because you talk about the scene where his people try to burn him, and that's really interesting, and I agree, and I really like that scene too. Imagine his reactions to that compounded by the fact that it's happened a couple hundred times.
Yeah, okay, I can see where you're going there.
Because, I mean, it really is like the monster in Frankenstein, where it's not that he's inherently evil or anything, or wants to hurt people or anything like that. It's just everyone keeps treating him awfully, and how else could you expect a monster to behave when you treat him like a monster?
Yeah, I was even going to go to the example of Highlander, which is that the flashbacks to the origin of those immortals is only interesting because you're getting an instant juxtaposition between who they were and who they are after all of this time.
Yeah.
I guess then part of the criticism would be that his whole origin is he lost his people and his wife died, and I feel like you could have done a little bit more with that.
I mean, I think...
Because, I mean...
I guess I agree, but this is also a revenge story.
I know, but I mean, like, Death Wish is a really simple revenge story where his family gets hurt, and that's an endlessly fascinating movie, and it is an origin story for that character, but we still have really deep psychology along with fun action scenes. We have Die Hard, which is essentially an origin story now that it's got a whole franchise, and it's got a really basic setup of his wife getting kidnapped, but it's still an endlessly interesting film to talk about, even though it's a dumb action movie in some places. And I don't know, I feel like the Dracula's already got this rich history, and we're going to finally restart it, and we're going to do something with it, and we got good characters, and we have good cast members, and we have the technology to do so much more with his powers, especially after this onslaught of superhero movies, and you're going to make him a superhero. I think it's possible to do more with him as a character in his early days, and they just didn't take the opportunity to do it simply because they thought they were going to get a sequel, and it feels a little bit lazy like that. Like, it feels like they intentionally kept the runtime at only 90 minutes because they felt like they didn't have to work very hard.
I definitely see where you're coming from there, but I feel like it's the story is entirely focused on him getting revenge, or not him getting revenge. The story's focused on him trying to protect his family, so we know what his motivations are for becoming Dracula. And then it's at the end, when he's forced into a corner and he's got only one thing left to fight for, that's why he fully, like, embraces the vampire, whatever you want to say. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway.
Like the monster, the demon, whatever.
Yeah. So, like, when he becomes the son of the devil.
Which was a really cool moment.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I feel like they knew they were serializing this somewhere.
Yeah.
And, like, you said that they were unsure about whether or not this is going to be in canon and all that stuff. I think there's an alternate cut of this movie or some deleted scenes that might have more stuff with him after he kills the Turks.
I mean, yeah, that's entirely possible because, like you said, there's some early politics going on beforehand, and there's definitely some more psychology to Vlad as a prince when you see, like, his scars across his back and stuff. Like, there's definitely more of an epic story to this, and I feel like they were trying just a bit too hard to condense it.
It's possible. I don't know. I really found I found what we got really interesting. And it left me wanting more, which, if you are planning to spin off a universe, that's what you want to do.
Yeah, that's
fair.
You want a
short, introductory movie that you don't have to know everything about the universe to get into, and then you want to be left with a really good tease, and fucking Tywin Lannister in a three-piece suit being all like, the game is on.
That was awesome.
Is really fucking cool. It makes me want to see more. And then I want to see where this character goes and what kind of memories he has. Personally, I'm hoping to see, like, some kind of thing where his son, like, moves him back into the castle in the middle of the night or something.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. It's a really basic story, but it's also a really effective one.
Yeah, because, like, honestly, you know, you can talk about him, and I'm sure the critics have a million issues, but
I think a lot of them are just nitpicking because it's not their Dracula. Yeah,
but for me, I enjoyed it while I was watching it. I at no point looked and wondered if the movie was going to be over soon.
Yeah,
and
same.
That's a good sign to me. Like, it's trying to be that. It's trying to be just an enjoyable Halloween experience, and considering that there's, like, no other horror movies this year, or anything that can really be classified as horror.
There's Annabelle.
What?
I mean, there's Annabelle.
I don't even know what that is. I haven't even seen advertisements for that.
It's a prequel to The Conjuring. I don't know. I didn't watch it.
I don't know, man. I went to the movie theater and I saw the now showing posters, And it's not like it's a small theater here in town. You know, it's a megaplex and everything. Saw the now showing posters, and this is the only thing I'd classify as remotely horror.
Wow. Okay. Well, again, I didn't see Annabelle, but I mean that's something else in the theaters. But when you're really competing between Annabelle and when you're competing between Annabelle and Dracula UnTold, it's kind of slim pickings. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's not like a bad slim pickings because this is a good movie. I mean it's not.
It's an okay movie. It's a decent movie.
Yeah, it's hard to say the word good because it's a good movie. It's not a good film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I wouldn't suggest writing term papers on this or anything, but it's certainly enjoyable, and that's all I need from something like this.
Yeah.
Like, I think part of the problem with Bram Stoker's Dracula that I never really got into is I think it was trying too hard to be art, and so it gets kind of caught up in itself.
Yeah, that's a fair criticism, because there is a great deal of art in that film.
Really streamlined fun. I'm sorry. Let me just finish this, then I'll have you repeat that. This is just really streamlined fun. That's all it's trying to be. Now, what were you saying?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just saying that, yeah, in Bram Stoker's Dracula, there's a little bit of an issue where there's certainly a lot of art to analyze, but there's almost too much of it in certain scenes.
Yeah, and I think watching Bram Stoker has really, like, completely altered my opinion on what this is. Like, honestly, if you hadn't picked that for Horror Movie Month earlier this month, and I hadn't rewatched it and stuff, I don't know if I would have bothered to go and see this, and if I had, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much as I did. But
that's interesting.
Since I had Bram Stoker's and like the weight of that and my conflicting feelings of that in the back of my mind while I was watching this, it made me enjoy it a lot more because it's much more what I want from a Dracula movie with just a couple things missing, I guess.
Yeah, I think kind of what we're coming down to as far as just a general overview of this movie is you really got your expectations were pretty low because everyone was just berating this movie, and you got what you wanted because it did exactly what it set out to do. And I kind of wish that it went an extra mile here and there, but that doesn't preclude the notion that it didn't do what it did well. So it's just the fact that I felt disappointed because I thought it could have been better, but that doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment. It's not an amazing film that's going to change your life.
Oh, it's not even close.
But it's a better vampire movie than most of the stuff we've gotten over the last couple years anyway. It's a lot more fun to watch, and it doesn't take itself too seriously or anything. It's a fun movie. If you like 300, go watch this. If you like, superhero movies, go watch this.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion. Yeah,
it's fun, and there's not too much playing in the theater. I mean, like, I just saw, like, 3 movies in a row this weekend, and there really isn't much there.
Yeah, it was between this and Gone Girl.
Oh.
And it's just because I had Dracula on the mind that I ended up choosing this.
Okay, well, yeah, Gone Girl's fantastic.
Yeah, I was really conflicted about it because I was like, Steve tells me Gone Girl's really good, and I believe him, and I really am curious about Ben Affleck's acting, but you know what? I've got 2 years till Batman vs. Superman. I'm sure it'll be on Netflix or I can rent it or something.
Well, I guess just a quick sidebar on that. If anyone's undecided about Ben Affleck's acting capability as Batman, watch Gone Girl, because he's Bruce Wayne, and he's Batman, and it's perfect.
Okay.
But no, yeah, like, Dracula I watched in a really odd place, because I'm not sure how I feel about it if I didn't watch the movies I saw before and after it. Because right before this, the previous weekend, I saw Gone Girl, which is an extremely intellectual and stimulating movie. Then I saw this. Then I saw Fury, which is on the opposite spectrum of historical fiction. Then I saw The Judge, which is on the opposite spectrum of family dynamic. And then I saw this really crappy Christian film called God's Not Dead. So I had like a pretty good spectrum of extreme insulting shit to extremely genius and lovable. So I think Dracula evened itself out somewhere there. Okay. Because I was really negative on it when I just walked out of the theater, and now I'm not so much.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that it's not a fun movie.
I would never.
I think the worst thing you could probably say about this is I doubt anyone's gonna remember it 10 years from now if this monster movie universe doesn't take off a lot better. Like, if the monster movie universe gets to the point of, like, the Marvel movie universe, then this film will be remembered. But if it, like, fizzles out and they're not able to make it come together, then, yeah, I'm afraid that this movie will be forgotten. And that's okay. You know, it's got plenty of company in the Dracula movie department.
In the forgotten Dracula movie department.
Yep.
Because I'm sure no one watched Dracula 3.
I don't know. I remember Dracula 3000. Does that count?
I never finished that, so maybe. What was it, Dracula 3 Ascension or something like that? Or was that Dracula 2? I don't know. It was crap. Either way.
Which one? What was Blade 3? Blade Trinity?
Yeah, Blade Trinity.
That one had Dracula in it.
Did it? Oh, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blade 3 is the one I never watched. Okay. I've seen that movie once. It's terrible. But yeah, you're right in the sense that if this universe doesn't take off, it's definitely going to be forgotten. And again, it's not terrible if it is. It's not like the RoboCop remake, where the new version isn't bad, but it's just so bland that people are going to forget that there was even a remake, and we just go to the original, so it doesn't justify its own existence. Dracula doesn't have a lot of company as far as good movies go. It's got really old school Hammer horror films and Universal horror films, but as far as just big budget, more modern, more in your face kind of Dracula films, they're all really mediocre.
And this is not. This is at least entertaining, I think.
Yeah, like I said, I would put it on par with Bram Stoker's Dracula, because for everything that movie does wrong, it does something right, and same with this one. Yeah, it just does less wrong in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it just goes for a different intention of entertainment. So.
Yeah, and I really like Luke Evans as Dracula. I think he does a really good job both as Dracula and as just Vlad Tempest. And I like the scenes he shares with Dominic Cooper. I think both of them played off each other pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. Wait, shit, which one was Dominic Cooper?
The Sultan guy.
Oh, okay, well, speaking of that fucking room full of silver, that was like some Batman shit, dude.
That was hilarious.
That's hilarious.
It's just... It's such a campy comic book thing to do. Like, this is your one weakness? Now let me get an entire room of nothing but that.
Well, like, I don't know, I thought it actually was really kind of cool because it had this whole, your own destruction thing element to it, because I'm sure not all of that silver belonged to Vlad, but he'd been part of that, like, troop or whatever you want to call it that was sending the Sultan silver.
Right.
So I thought that was really interesting. And I have a feeling like he prepared for that. He didn't just have it.
I think that's kind of cool. It's just a matter of Dominic Cooper acts like the material is meant to be taken. He acts like a cartoon. Mm-hmm. So I think on that level it's kind of a funny scene that him and Dracula just go back and forth and there's all this silver on the ground, and every time he hits something, more silver just keeps falling. And my theater was cracking up at that scene.
Oh, no, mine didn't. Well, he wasn't hitting something. He had bags of it hanging.
Well, yeah, but then he hit a crate on the ground next to where his son was, and that broke open with silver in it and stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, there's just silver falling out of every orifice, and I think that it's just a funny scene, I think, to choreograph.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. I thought it was some clever Batman shit.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad.
Frank Miller Batman.
I mean, it's not bad. It's just out of context that's how it plays.
Yeah, I did have one little nitpick about that scene. So when he was, trying to stake Dracula in the heart, what the hell was going on with his armor?
I thought it was eroding away, like the wood made it melt or something. I don't know.
That was weird. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
I feel like I've been a little too positive on this movie. I did have, issues with it, but I thought most of them were nitpicky or just it's too highbrow an argument for this kind of movie.
Yeah.
Because it's not amazing filmmaking. I don't think anyone's going to call it that, so I don't need to make arguments against it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like it, that's fine. It's just a matter of it's not trying to be anything more than a dumb action movie.
No, not a dumb action movie that I got.
I mean, it certainly doesn't have a brain about itself for a lot of the time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, the example that comes to mind is Dracula has 3 days to end this conflict before his powers go away, or he has to drink someone's blood and be a vampire forever. And maybe it's just my modern sensibilities. This movie takes place in the 1400s, if I'm correct, right?
Yep.
Well, the 1400s, and there's messages being sent back and forth in a matter of at least hours. And they're moving places within days, and it just doesn't add up with the way pacing would work back then. Like, it would take just 3 days for the Sultan to get certain information.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
But I mean, like, that's not a
doing
huge
the bird
complaint
messages,
because it's not trying to think about those things either.
Well, I'm gonna give a really, like, I think this is the best justification I could give for that plot hole, I guess you could call it. I think the Sultan wanted to fight Dracula. Like, I think he was already preparing an army anyway.
That's fair.
And so he was like at the, like, I mean, he already had scouts in the country and everything. Whole battalion of them apparently.
Right.
And he was there within at least a day's ride for Vlad to show up and, you know, sign the paper in blood and whatever and hand over his son later that day, it looked like.
Yeah.
So I think that might be a character thing.
Yeah, it could be. Also, they mentioned Hungary, and I'm not sure if by that time period Hungary was its own country.
True.
I mean, I'm not exactly well versed in what happened to the Ottoman Empire and where certain countries were formed and when certain ones weren't, but he talks about Hungary as if it's already there, and I don't think it is. I mean, it's a territory, and it's probably part of the Turkish Empire and all that. It's just not Hungary yet, but whatever.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, like, those kinds of complaints are nitpicks. And some critics of the reviews I've read blow those out of proportion.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that's unfair to the film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Sarah Godin as Mina.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't care for her.
Wait, you didn't like her as Mina or as Dracula's wife?
I just didn't like her acting in the film. I guess would be a better way to put it. I thought she was a cartoon in the way Dominic Cooper was, but more of in the sense that she's playing it almost without trying. Like, she's kind of really phoning it in. I don't know. I didn't care for her performance, and whenever you put her next to Luke Evans, it's pretty clear Luke Evans is doing a majority of the work in those scenes. And that's weird, because he's supposed to be really brutish and serious and kind of the one straight man of this whole cast.
Yeah.
Because even, what's his name? Even Charles Dance as the master vampire guy, even he's a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I get the feeling that, like, Game of Thrones gave that dude's career a big jump start. And, like, he's going to be, you know, like, the evil Liam Neeson and everything from now on.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
he's fantastic in that role.
I loved him as the vampire. That was, like, I didn't even recognize him until the last scene.
Yeah.
Like, that was so well done.
Yeah, I love the final scene with him, too, where, like you said, the movie ends with him saying, "Let the games begin."
Oh, I thought he said the game is on.
Oh, no, that's a Sherlock thing. Now I'm thinking of Sherlock.
The game is afoot.
I love Sherlock.
All right, everyone. So thank you for listening. Let's go ahead and give scores, Steve.
I'm trying to wonder.
Because I feel like we're like all but spent. We're just like, oh, here's a random thing.
Yeah. I don't think I've got anything else to say. Aside from special effects, looked pretty good, but that's not much.
Yeah, I liked them.
I would give it a 2.5 out of 5. Enslaved children to the Turks.
God, dude, it's so dark.
And
that was a really messed up opening.
Well, I mean, it's even darker because I said 2.5, so there's like a half of a kid running around there.
Oh my God. Oh, that's a pleasant image.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. Just right before we go to sleep, it's fantastic.
I gotta say that was that opening scene kind of wrote a check this movie didn't cash. It's like, holy shit, this could be a really fucked up Dracula movie.
Yeah.
Nah.
I like that opening scene a lot, by the way. I think it sets up pretty well.
Yeah. The movie's not at all the same tone, but okay.
Nope, not at all.
Anyway, for me, like, I think 2.5 is fair. It's an average movie. It's an average score. I enjoyed it a little bit more than that, so I'm going to probably give it 3.5. Well, dang it. This is when I hate it, when I don't have something. Oh, fuck it. Rooms Full of Silver. Out of 5.
Dominic Cooper's Magical Room of Silver.
I don't think it was magical. He saw the fucking bat thing. If you know anything about vampires at the time, wouldn't you, like, get a room full of silver if you could?
Well, I don't mean, like, in the sense that it's actually magical. I just think it looks pretty fantastical. It's the closest we've gotten to a live-action DuckTales.
True. I don't know, for me, knowing what I know about, like, whack job emperors and stuff, like, that seems like something Caligula would do.
Yeah, I can see it. And I mean, even the guy that Dominic Cooper's character was playing, Meded II, he was kind of a fantastical guy, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's fair. I could definitely see people...
I could see him having a treasure room.
Yeah. Especially if that guy is just so boastful and so proud about everything.
Yeah, I mean, the dude was wearing golden armor, man.
Yeah. It was hilarious.
All right. Everyone, thank you for listening. Make sure to tune in. God, this is going to be a busy week. All right, so let me tell everyone what we're getting this week.
Oh, goody.
I'm going to edit this as soon as we're done talking. Then I'm going to post it in the morning. So tomorrow you're going to get this, probably a live episode of The Flash. If you're listening to this right now, it'll be up later tonight. We'll be doing a live episode talking about the third episode of The Flash. Then there will be, on Wednesday, on Tuesday we're recording, on Wednesday there should be a episode of Doctor Who reviews. And then later this week, you're getting a review of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So yeah, busy week on Geeky Gentlemen.
Yeah. You got a very active channel.
Yeah, totally. And there'll be clips from all those episodes, too.
Oh, man. You're uploading more in this 1 week than I think you have all month.
Probably. All right, everyone. So thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I'm the Politician.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.